The vast silence of space surrounded humanity's final stronghold, a massive structure floating among the stars. It was built as a fortress for survival. Its steel walls gleamed under the dim light of a distant sun. Inside, a crew of brave men and women worked tirelessly. They knew the stronghold was their last line of defense against any threat that dared to approach. For months, there had been rumors of an alien fleet. Whispers carried warnings of war, but no one believed the aliens would dare to attack. Humanity had fought hard to establish its presence in space, and this stronghold symbolized their resilience and strength. However, the calm didn't last long. Suddenly, alarms echoed through the corridors. The red emergency lights flashed, and the sound of hurried footsteps filled the air. Lieutenant Sarah Monroe, a sharp-eyed officer, rushed to the control room. Her heart pounded in her chest as she stared at the massive holographic screen. "Report," she shouted. A young technician, his face pale, stammered. "Multiple unidentified ships just exited hyperspace. They're surrounding us. It's the aliens." The room went silent for a moment, the gravity of the situation sinking in. The screen showed dozens of alien ships, sleek and menacing, positioned strategically around the stronghold. Their designs were unlike anything humanity had seen before. They glowed with an eerie green light, and their weapons hummed with deadly energy. Commander Lucas Hayes, a veteran with years of experience, stepped forward. His voice was calm but firm. "Activate the defense systems. We've trained for this moment. Let's show them what humanity is made of." The crew moved quickly, their hands flying over control panels. Massive turrets extended from the stronghold, locking onto the alien ships. Shields flickered to life, forming an invisible barrier around the station. Outside, the alien fleet remained still, as if watching. Then, a transmission came through. The alien general appeared on the screen, his face cold and expressionless. He had pale, translucent skin and sharp, glowing eyes. His voice was deep and robotic. "Humans," he began, "you have taken what does not belong to you. This territory is ours. Surrender now, or face complete annihilation." The crew exchanged nervous glances, but Commander Hayes stood tall. "We will never surrender," he replied. "If you attack, you'll regret it." The alien general's expression didn't change. He simply said, "You've been warned." The transmission ended. Moments later, the alien ships began to move. Energy beams charged on their weapons, and the sound of explosions soon followed. The first wave of their attack had begun. The stronghold's defenses responded immediately. Turrets fired powerful blasts, striking several alien ships. The invaders underestimated the strength of humanity's technology. Explosions lit up the dark void as alien vessels disintegrated, but more kept coming. Sarah watched the chaos unfold on the screen. Her mind raced. "Commander," she said, "they're testing our defenses. This isn't their full attack. They're trying to find our weaknesses." Commander Hayes nodded. "We'll give them nothing." But Sarah noticed something unusual. She leaned closer to the screen, studying the alien formation. "Wait," she said, "they're avoiding Sector 7. Why?" Sector 7 was a heavily fortified area, home to a secret weapon designed to catch enemies off guard. It seemed the aliens weren't aware of it. Sarah's eyes lit up with determination. "Commander, we can use this to our advantage," she said. "If we lure them closer to Sector 7, we can unleash the weapon and destroy their front line." Commander Hayes gave her a sharp look. "Do it." Sarah quickly relayed the plan to the crew. Within moments, the stronghold adjusted its firepower, intentionally leaving gaps in its defense to guide the alien ships toward Sector 7. The aliens, eager to exploit any perceived weakness, took the bait. As the enemy ships moved into position, Sarah activated the secret weapon. A massive energy pulse erupted from Sector 7, engulfing the alien ships in a blinding light. When the light faded, the alien front line was gone. Cheers erupted in the control room. For the first time, The humans had struck a serious blow against the invaders, but their celebration was short-lived. "Commander," another officer called out, "more ships are coming through hyperspace. It's their main fleet." The vast silence of space surrounded humanity's final stronghold, a massive structure floating among the stars. It was built as a fortress for survival. Its steel walls gleamed under the dim light of a distant sun. Inside, a crew of brave men and women worked tirelessly. They knew the stronghold was their last line of defense against any threat that dared to approach. For months, there had been rumors of an alien fleet. Whispers carried warnings of war, but no one believed the aliens would dare to attack. Humanity had fought hard to establish its presence in space, and this stronghold symbolized their resilience and strength. However, the calm didn't last long. Suddenly, alarms echoed through the corridors. The red emergency lights flashed, and the sound of hurried footsteps filled the air. Lieutenant Sarah Monroe, a sharp-eyed officer, rushed to the control room. Her heart pounded in her chest as she stared at the massive holographic screen. "Report," she shouted. A young technician, his face pale, stammered, "Multiple unidentified ships just exited hyperspace. They're surrounding us. It's the aliens." The room went silent for a moment, the gravity of the situation sinking in. The screen showed dozens of alien ships, sleek and menacing, positioned strategically around the stronghold. Their designs were unlike anything humanity had seen before. They glowed with an eerie green light, and their weapons hummed with deadly energy. Commander Lucas Hayes, a veteran with years of experience, stepped forward. His voice was calm but firm. "Activate the defense systems. We've trained for this moment. Let's show them what humanity is made of." The crew moved quickly, their hands flying over control panels. Massive turrets extended from the stronghold, locking onto the alien ships. Shields flickered to life, forming an invisible barrier around the station. Outside, the alien fleet remained still, as if watching. Then, a transmission came through. The alien general appeared on the screen, his face cold and expressionless. He had pale, translucent skin and sharp, glowing eyes. His voice was deep and robotic. "Humans," he began, "you have taken what does not belong to you. This territory is ours. Surrender now, or face complete annihilation." The crew exchanged nervous glances, but Commander Hayes stood tall. "We will never surrender," he replied. "If you attack, you'll regret it." The alien general's expression didn't change. He simply said, "You've been warned." The transmission ended. Moments later, the alien ships began to move. Energy beams charged on their weapons, and the sound of explosions soon followed. The first wave of their attack had begun. The stronghold's defenses responded immediately. Turrets fired powerful blasts, striking several alien ships. The invaders underestimated the strength of humanity's technology. Explosions lit up the dark void as alien vessels disintegrated, but more kept coming. Sarah watched the chaos unfold on the screen. Her mind raced. "Commander," she said, "they're testing our defenses. This isn't their full attack. They're trying to find our weaknesses." Commander Hayes nodded. "We'll give them nothing." But Sarah noticed something unusual. She leaned closer to the screen, studying the alien formation. "Wait," she said, "they're avoiding Sector 7. Why?" Sector 7 was a heavily fortified area, home to a secret weapon designed to catch enemies off guard. It seemed the aliens weren't aware of it. Sarah's eyes lit up with determination. "Commander, we can use this to our advantage," she said. "If we lure them closer to Sector 7, we can unleash the weapon and destroy their front line." Commander Hayes gave her a sharp look. "Do it." Sarah quickly relayed the plan to the crew. Within moments, the stronghold adjusted its firepower, intentionally leaving gaps in its defense to guide the alien ships toward Sector 7. The aliens, eager to exploit any perceived weakness, took the bait. As the enemy ships moved into position, Sarah activated the secret weapon. A massive energy pulse erupted from Sector 7, engulfing the alien ships in a blinding light. When the light faded, the alien front line was gone. Cheers erupted in the control room. For the first time, the humans had struck a serious blow against the invaders. But their celebration was short-lived. "Commander," another officer called out, "more ships are coming through hyperspace. It's their main fleet." The holographic screen lit up with new targets. Hundreds of alien ships now surrounded the Stronghold. Their numbers were overwhelming. Sarah's confidence wavered, but Commander Hayes remained calm. "We've shown them we're not weak. Now we prepare for the real fight." The alien general appeared on the screen again. This time, there was a hint of frustration in his expression. "You've made a grave mistake, humans," he said. "Your destruction is inevitable." The screen went black, and the alien fleet began its second assault. The explosion had barely faded when Commander Lucas Hayes gave his orders. The Stronghold's internal systems hummed with life as the crew scrambled to prepare for the incoming alien assault. They had landed a significant blow, but the fight was far from over. Sarah Monroe, eyes glued to the control panel, saw the alien fleet shifting position. The second wave was coming in fast, their ships more aggressive and coordinated this time. It was clear. The aliens were not going to make the same mistake again. "Commander, they're organizing," Sarah said, voice steady but laced with urgency. "They've changed their formation. Looks like they're preparing for a full-scale bombardment." Commander Hayes clenched his jaw. "Activate all weapons. Prepare for the worst." The Stronghold's weapons systems roared to life. Turrets whirred, locking onto the approaching alien ships. Behind them, giant defense shields shimmered, holding the line. The alien ships were faster and more agile now. They darted through space, firing concentrated beams of energy, intent on breaking through humanity's defenses. The first round of blasts hit the Stronghold's shields with tremendous force. The station rocked, but the shields held firm. "Direct hit on Sector 9, shouted an officer, his voice strained. "Shields are down to 60%. Sarah's heart skipped a beat, but she quickly refocused. "Commander, if we don't do something now, their firepower will breach the outer layers. We need a counterattack." The commander's face was set, determined. "What do you have in mind?" Sarah's fingers danced across her console. She quickly brought up a schematic of the alien fleet's formation. It was clear that their ships were clustered together, creating a weak spot in the middle. "If we can punch through the center, we can cause enough disruption to break their coordination. We'll need every fighter we have." Commander Hayes looked at her, a glint of recognition in his eyes. He was thinking the same thing. "Do it. Give them everything we've got," he ordered. Sarah tapped into the communications channel. "All fighter pilots, get ready for a coordinated strike on the center of the enemy fleet. We have one shot at this." The room fell into tense silence. A moment later, the voice of Captain Ethan Collins, the lead pilot, came over the intercom. "Understood, Lieutenant. We'll strike hard and fast. Prepare for a bumpy ride." Outside the Stronghold, dozens of small but highly maneuverable fighter ships, humanity's pride, launched from hidden hangars. The pilots, skilled and trained for moments like this, knew that the next few minutes would decide everything. As the fleet of fighters sped toward the heart of the alien formation, the battle began in earnest. Laser beams whizzed by, narrowly missing the human ships as they darted through the vast emptiness of space. The alien fleet responded with fierce resistance, firing relentlessly in an attempt to destroy the human pilots. "Stay tight. We hit them together, or we don't hit them at all," Captain Collins barked over the comms. The human fighters closed in on their target, the weak point in the alien formation. They launched every weapon they had: plasma missiles, pulse lasers, and EMP grenades designed to disrupt alien tech. The result was a blinding burst of light as the explosion rocked the center of the alien fleet. The alien ships began to stagger, their formations breaking apart as chaos spread through their ranks. For a moment, it seemed as though victory was within reach. Humanity's counterattack had struck hard and deep. But the victory was short-lived. "Commander, more ships are entering the area," Sarah reported, eyes wide. "It's a full-scale invasion. They're calling in reinforcements." The screen flickered to life, showing more alien ships emerging from hyperspace. This time, they weren't just fighter crafts. The new ships were massive, with the size and firepower to turn the tide of battle in the aliens' favor. Commander Hayes frowned. "They're desperate now. They're not just trying to break our defenses. They're coming for our stronghold itself." The human fighters pulled back, regrouping near the station. The battle had shifted, and the real test was now upon them. "How long can the shields hold?" Hayes asked, his voice calm but heavy with the weight of the situation. "Not long," came the reply from the shield officer. "We're down to 40%. The next wave might be too much for us." "Then we fight," Hayes said, turning to the crew. "If we lose the stronghold, we lose everything. We don't back down. This is humanity's moment." Sarah looked out at the holographic map where the alien reinforcements closed in. The stronghold was being encircled. Each passing second brought more danger, and the pressure weighed down on everyone. "We'll need to move fast," she said, her mind racing. "If we can't stop their reinforcements, we'll have to take the fight to them." Commander Hayes nodded. "Prepare the next phase of the plan. We'll strike at their reinforcements before they can regroup. It's now or never." The eerie silence that followed the alien general's threatening words felt heavier than ever. The human crew had fought valiantly, but now it was clear. Humanity's stronghold was at risk. Commander Lucas Hayes stood at the center of the command room, his eyes fixed on the view screen as the alien reinforcements moved into position. "Prepare for another bombardment," he ordered, his voice calm but edged with the knowledge that their defenses were weakening. "This time, we need to make sure we take down their biggest ships first. If we can stop their flagships, the rest of the fleet will crumble." Sarah Monroe, eyes focused on her console, frowned. "They're smarter than we thought, Commander. They're shifting their largest ships into more strategic positions, using them as shields for the smaller ones. We need something more than just brute force." The room fell into a tense silence as the officers and crew exchanged uneasy glances. Humanity's weapons were powerful, but the alien fleet was vast and heavily armed. They were facing an overwhelming force. Hayes stood tall, unwavering. "Then it's time we use our trump card." Sarah's eyes widened. "Are you sure, sir? We've never tested it under these conditions. The risk is enormous." "I know the risks," Hayes replied, his voice hard with resolve. "But if we don't do something drastic, this stronghold will fall. We have one weapon left, and it's time to deploy it." With a nod from the commander, Sarah's fingers flew across the console, inputting a series of commands that only a few members of the crew knew about. The room seemed to hold its breath as the station's power grid hummed to life, slowly building in intensity. "Sir, it's activating," Sarah said, glancing at the holographic map. "The quantum disruptor is coming online." The quantum disruptor was a secret weapon developed in the darkest corners of humanity's research labs. Designed as a last-ditch measure, it was capable of disabling or even destroying enemy ships in a massive radius. The energy required to power it was immense, and its effects unpredictable. That's why it had been kept in the shadows, until now. Commander Hayes nodded. "Activate it, Sarah, and keep an eye on the systems. If anything goes wrong, we'll need to shut it down fast." Outside, the alien fleet continued to close in. The moment of truth had arrived. Sarah hesitated for only a split second, then pressed the final sequence of buttons. A blinding pulse of light shot out from the stronghold's core, expanding outward in all directions. At first, nothing seemed to happen. The energy pulse traveled through space, and for a brief moment, the human crew wondered if it had failed. Then the first alien ship, a large destroyer on the edge of the fleet, began to flicker. Its shields flickered and then vanished entirely. A moment later, the ship seemed to shudder, its engines powering down, before it exploded in a flash of white light. The shockwave from the explosion reverberated across the battlefield, and one by one, more alien ships began to malfunction. The disruptor's pulse was hitting them hard, disabling their technology. Their shields flickered, weapon systems failed, and some of their smaller ships simply froze mid-flight, drifting helplessly in space. Sarah's heart skipped a beat as she saw the results unfold on the screen. "It's working, Commander. They're losing control. The entire fleet is destabilizing." But the victory was short-lived. As more alien ships were disabled, the remaining alien forces quickly adjusted, shifting into a more defensive formation. They weren't just reacting to the attack. They were adapting. Sarah frowned. "They're regrouping faster than we anticipated. This won't be enough to finish them off." Commander Hayes clenched his fists, frustration building. "We need to buy ourselves more time. If we can't stop them now, we'll be overwhelmed." That's when Sarah noticed something strange. One of the alien ships, much larger than the others, was moving toward the Stronghold, undeterred by the disruptor's effects. This ship was massive, more advanced than anything humanity had encountered. "It's their flagship," Sarah exclaimed. "That ship is equipped with advanced shielding technology, unlike anything we've seen. The disruptor won't work on it." The flagship was moving into position, aiming directly for the Stronghold. Its weapons were fully powered, and it fired an enormous energy blast straight at humanity's station. The blast hit the Stronghold's outer shield, causing it to flicker and spark under the immense strain. "Shields at 20%, an officer shouted. "If it hits again, we'll lose the outer layer." Sarah knew they didn't have much time. She turned back to her console and began inputting commands again. "We can't stop it with the disruptor, but we have one more trick up our sleeve." The crew exchanged confused glances. "What do you mean?" Hayes asked. Sarah's fingers danced across the screen, and soon a new schematic appeared. An advanced fighter squadron that had been hidden in the depths of the Stronghold. These weren't ordinary fighters. They were specially designed to pierce through the toughest shields, using a technology humanity had only just perfected. These fighters carried one final weapon, a devastating anti-shield missile capable of breaking through any barrier. "Captain Collins," Sarah said, speaking into the comms. "Prepare your squadron. We need you to intercept that flagship before it gets any closer. We have one shot." Captain Collins' voice crackled through the intercom. "Understood, Lieutenant. We'll make it count." Cliffhanger ending. As Sarah finished preparing the final coordinates for the missile strike, the alien flagship fired once again. The blast hit the Stronghold's shields with an earth-shattering force, and for a brief moment, everything went silent. The fate of humanity's last Stronghold was hanging by a thread. The tension is rising as the fate of humanity's Stronghold teeters on the brink. Will the final weapon succeed? Would you like to continue with Part 4? The massive blast from the alien flagship struck the Stronghold's outer shields with a deafening force. The entire station shuddered under the impact, and the lights flickered. For a brief moment, everything went dark. Inside the control room, panic flared, but Commander Lucas Hayes remained calm. "Status report. Shields are down to 5%, came the grim reply. "The next hit could take us out." The weight of the situation sank in. Sarah Monroe's eyes darted to the main screen, where the alien flagship loomed closer, its weapons already charged for another attack. It was only a matter of time before their shields failed completely. Humanity's last Stronghold, their last hope, was on the brink of destruction. "Where's the fighter squadron?" Hayes demanded, his voice hard with urgency. "Fighters are ready," Sarah said, her fingers flying over the console. "Captain Collins is preparing for the intercept, but we're cutting it close. The flagship's moving too fast." The tension in the air was thick as the crew braced themselves. The alien flagship was relentless, its massive cannons locked onto the station, preparing for the killing blow. Outside, Captain Ethan Collins, leading the squadron of advanced fighters, focused on the mission ahead. His heart pounded in his chest as the countdown began. "All fighters, form up," Collins instructed over the comms. "We've only got one shot at this. Stay tight and follow my lead. If we don't stop that ship, it's over for all of us." The fighters launched from the Stronghold, their engines roaring to life. They darted into the vast expanse of space, swiftly closing in on the alien flagship. Their weapons were fully charged, and they carried the last hope for humanity: the anti-shield missiles. These missiles, developed in secret by humanity's best engineers, were designed to pierce the thickest defenses. Sarah watched nervously as the fighters moved into position. Her eyes flicked to the holographic map showing the fighters' progress. The flagship was moments away from firing again. "Come on, Captain," she muttered under her breath. The flagship's massive energy cannons fired once more, a colossal beam of light aimed directly at the Stronghold. The station's remaining shields flickered and struggled against the power of the blast, but they were barely holding on. Then, from the corner of her eye, Sarah saw a new signal. One of the fighter pilots had launched the anti-shield missile. It soared toward the alien flagship, its sleek form cutting through the emptiness of space. "Missile deployed," Sarah announced, her voice shaky but hopeful. The missile hurtled through the void, streaking toward the massive flagship, but the alien ship's defense systems quickly activated. Powerful energy pulses shot out from the flagship's outer hull, attempting to intercept and destroy the missile before it could reach its target. "Dodge the incoming fire," Captain Collins shouted over the comms. "We've got to give that missile a clear shot." The human fighters weaved and dodged, their speed and agility the only thing that kept them alive. Alien blasts missed them by mere inches as the missile continued its path toward the flagship's shield. "Come on," Sarah whispered, gripping the edge of her console. The missile closed in. At the last moment, a brilliant explosion of light erupted as the anti-shield missile slammed into the flagship's defenses. For a heart-stopping second, nothing happened. The flagship's shields shimmered but held firm. Then, as if the laws of physics themselves had been defied, the shields began to falter. The missile had found its mark. The powerful alien barrier flickered and then collapsed, leaving the flagship exposed. "Direct hit. Shields are down," Sarah yelled. Commander Hayes' eyes narrowed. "Now's our chance. All available fighters, focus fire on that ship." The remaining human fighters charged forward, their weapons unleashed in full force. Plasma cannons, pulse lasers, and energy missiles tore into the alien flagship, each blast shaking the massive vessel. The flagship's once imposing form started to show signs of damage. Huge chunks of its outer hull splintered away, revealing the core beneath. The alien general, appearing on the screen once more, his face twisted in disbelief, shouted, "No, you cannot defeat us." But his words were drowned out by the deafening roar of humanity's final assault. The flagship shook violently, and then, with a final resounding explosion, it detonated in a brilliant flash of light. The shockwave sent ripples through the remaining alien fleet, and many of the smaller ships scattered, their control systems completely scrambled by the blast. The human fighters didn't hesitate. They pursued the alien ships with relentless fury, cutting down stragglers and driving the remaining forces into retreat. The once formidable alien fleet, now crippled and disorganized, began to break apart. "Enemy fleet retreating," an officer shouted from the control room. The crew erupted in cheers, the tension lifting from their shoulders. But it wasn't over yet. There were still alien ships out there, small pockets of resistance trying to regroup. But they had won the critical battle. Sarah turned to Commander Hayes, a smile finally breaking through her stress. "We did it. We stopped them." Hayes nodded, his expression weary but satisfied. "We've bought humanity some time, but this war is far from over." Cliffhanger ending. As the human fighters regrouped, a new signal appeared on the screen. A single alien ship, much larger than anything they had seen before, appeared at the edge of the battlefield. It was a massive dreadnought, with weapons unlike anything humanity had ever faced, and it was heading straight for the Stronghold. The battle is won, but a new, even greater threat looms over humanity's last stronghold. Will they survive this new wave? Would you like to continue with Part 5? You said. The cheers inside the control room were short-lived. As the last remnants of the alien fleet retreated into the darkness of space, a new, more terrifying presence made itself known. On the holographic screen, a massive object slowly emerged from the shadows, larger than any ship the humans had ever encountered. Commander Lucas Hayes stood still, his jaw tight as he stared at the screen. The sight of the alien dreadnought, with its gleaming armor and immense size, sent a chill down his spine. This was no ordinary ship. It was a warship of unimaginable power, one that had the potential to obliterate humanity's last stronghold in a single strike. Is that? Sarah Monroe's voice trailed off, but the fear in her eyes said it all. It's their flagship, Hayes said, his voice steady but filled with resolve. The real one. The one they've been hiding in reserve. The dreadnought's design was unlike anything humanity had seen. Its surface was smooth, reflecting the light of distant stars. The weapons array was intimidating, with massive cannons lining the ship's hull. And worst of all, it was heading directly toward the Stronghold. Can we take it down? Sarah asked, her fingers hovering over the control panel, ready for the worst. We don't have the firepower to go head-to-head with that thing, Hayes replied, his mind racing. But we can't let it reach the station. If it does, we're done for. The crew in the control room was tense, all eyes locked on the approaching threat. The dreadnought moved slowly but deliberately, its energy systems coming online with terrifying precision. There was no mistaking it. The aliens were preparing to end this battle in one final, crushing blow. Commander, a voice called from across the room. It was Lieutenant Carter, the weapons officer. I've been tracking its weapon systems. That dreadnought carries a primary cannon, powerful enough to cut through any shield we have. If it fires, our outer defenses won't stand a chance. We need to stop it before that happens, Hayes said, his voice grim. He turned to Sarah. Any ideas? Sarah quickly scanned the data on the screen. She knew the station's defenses couldn't hold, and the fighters had already given everything they had. There was only one option left, a plan that had been designed for the unthinkable, a desperate maneuver that no one had ever dared to consider until now. We have one shot, she said. If we can get a team close enough to board that ship and disable its weapon systems from the inside, we might stand a chance. The room went quiet. The idea was insane, but it was the only chance they had left. Commander, I'll lead the team, Sarah said, her voice firm. We have no time to waste. Hayes hesitated for a moment, but knew there was no other choice. The dreadnought was getting closer, its massive form filling the holographic screen as it neared the Stronghold. Make it happen, Hayes ordered, his voice tight with urgency. Good luck, Lieutenant. Outside the Stronghold, Sarah Monroe led a small team of soldiers, their hearts pounding in their chests as they prepared for the most dangerous mission of their lives. They were about to board the alien dreadnought. An impossible task, but the only hope they had left. The fighter ships that had carried them to the edge of the battle zone now lay in the distance, retreating to avoid the oncoming dreadnought's firepower. Only the specialized boarding pods remained, designed to withstand the harsh conditions of deep space. Stay focused, Sarah said to her team, her voice steady despite the fear she could feel gnawing at her. We make it inside, we find their weapons, and we disable them. No mistakes. The boarding pods blasted off from the Stronghold, their hulls reinforced to endure the intense pressure of space. The team was silent, each member preparing for what lay ahead. The dreadnought loomed ahead, growing larger with every passing second. It was massive, towering over them, in the vast expanse of space. Approaching the target, the pod pilot's voice came through the comms. "Get ready." As they neared the alien ship's surface, Sarah could see the terrifying features of the dreadnought in more detail. Its surface was lined with armor, dark and menacing. There were no obvious entry points, only the sleek, unyielding surface of the ship. "Brace for impact," the pilot warned. The pod shuddered as it made contact with the dreadnought's hull. It was a perfect landing, thanks to the precise calculations. The hatch opened, and the team immediately stepped out into the cold vacuum of space. They moved quickly, their magnetic boots keeping them anchored to the ship's surface. Sarah led the way, her mind focused on the task ahead. There was no room for hesitation. Every second they wasted brought the dreadnought closer to the Stronghold. If they didn't succeed, humanity's last hope would be obliterated. Inside the dreadnought, the team moved quickly, finding a hatch and using their advanced tools to break inside. They were now within the dreadnought. The interior was dimly lit, and the air smelled strange, alien. The walls were lined with advanced technology that hummed with energy. "We need to find the core systems," Sarah said, as she led her team deeper into the heart of the ship. "Once we disable the weapon controls, we can stop it from firing." The halls twisted and turned, with strange markings on the walls that indicated alien writing. The team moved swiftly, but they had no idea what kind of traps or defenses awaited them. Every shadow could be hiding an alien sentry, and every turn might lead to danger. They finally reached the main control room, where the ship's central systems were located. The doors slid open with a hiss, revealing a vast chamber filled with rows of alien consoles and a strange energy cord in the center. "Here it is," Sarah breathed, her eyes scanning the room. The central console was the key to disabling the dreadnought's weapons. Before they could approach, a voice echoed from the walls, cold and unyielding. "You think you can stop me, human?" The alien general's face appeared on a nearby screen, his expression filled with disdain. Cliffhanger ending. The alien general's image flickered to life, his mocking voice sending a chill down Sarah's spine. "This is where your journey ends. You will not succeed." As the doors slammed shut, the team realized they were trapped inside the control room, with the alien general's voice echoing in their minds. The countdown to the destruction of the Stronghold had begun. The fate of humanity's last stronghold is on the line. Will Sarah and her team succeed, or will the alien general have the final say? Would you like to continue with Part 6? The air in the control room was thick with tension. Sarah Monroe and her team stood frozen, their eyes locked on the holographic projection of the alien general. His face twisted with a cruel smile, and his words echoed through the chamber, cold and unforgiving. "You think you can stop me?" The alien general's voice sent shivers down Sarah's spine. "Your efforts are meaningless. This ship will obliterate your puny stronghold, and there's nothing you can do to stop it." The doors to the control room slammed shut behind them with a deafening sound, sealing them inside. The team turned, weapons at the ready, but there was no way out. The walls were lined with alien technology that hummed with power, and there were no visible exits. "Commander, we're locked in," Sarah said, her voice trained as she quickly scanned the room. "We need to find a way out, and fast. We have to shut down the weapon systems before that thing fires." Lieutenant Carter, the weapons officer, said, his voice urgent. "We're out of time." Sarah nodded. The countdown had already begun. The dreadnought's weapon systems were powering up, its primary cannon charging for the devastating blast that would end humanity's stronghold once and for all. The control room was eerily silent, save for the low hum of alien machinery and the voices of the team, as they quickly moved to the central console. But the more Sarah looked at the advanced alien tech, the more it felt like an impenetrable maze. The alien general's words rang in her ears. "You cannot win. You are too weak." But Sarah wasn't about to let that defeat her. She turned to her team, determination in her eyes. "We can do this. We just need to get through their systems." Suddenly, a deep rumbling echoed through the ship, followed by a low mechanical whine. The walls vibrated as though the entire dreadnought was shifting into its final battle mode. "They're getting ready to fire," Sarah said, her voice tight with urgency. "We don't have much time." Outside the Stronghold. Back at the human Stronghold, Commander Lucas Hayes watched in horror as the alien dreadnought loomed closer. The pulse of its massive weapon systems lit up the dark expanse of space, preparing for the final shot that would obliterate everything. "Status report," Hayes demanded, his eyes never leaving the screen. The officer beside him was clearly tense. "Shields are holding, but just barely, Commander. If that dreadnought fires, we're done for. We have no way to stop it without the weapons being disabled." Hayes clenched his fists. "How long until we lose shields?" "Maybe 5 minutes at best," the officer replied. "If the ship's weapon fires, we'll lose everything." Hayes' mind raced. He had already sent out a team to board the dreadnought, but the situation felt more dire by the second. Sarah and her team were humanity's last hope. Inside the dreadnought, back in the control room, Sarah and her team had made their move. They had to work quickly, but the alien tech was like nothing they had ever seen before. The central console was covered in strange, alien symbols that seemed to change and shift as they approached. "Is anyone seeing anything familiar?" Sarah asked, her eyes scanning the symbols. "Anything that could help us stop the weapon?" Lieutenant Carter ran his fingers over the glowing symbols, but nothing seemed to make sense. "I've never seen anything like this. This isn't human tech." Suddenly, a harsh electronic voice filled the room. It was the alien general, his smug tone never faltering. "You're wasting your time. You cannot defeat me. My ship's systems are far beyond your understanding. Soon, your stronghold will be nothing but space debris, and I'll be the one standing victorious." The voice echoed in Sarah's mind. "You cannot win. You are too weak." "Shut up," Sarah snapped, trying to push the alien general's taunts out of her mind. "We're not done yet. We'll find a way." Sarah's fingers flew across the console, desperately trying to decode the alien symbols. She knew they had only a few minutes left. She could feel the dreadnought preparing for its final attack, the hum of its systems growing louder with each passing second. "We need to access the weapon systems," she said, her voice tight. "If we can't stop that cannon, humanity's done for." Just as Sarah's hand hovered over a final sequence of buttons, the console flickered. A hidden compartment in the wall opened, revealing a glowing alien crystal that pulsed with energy. The moment Sarah touched it, the room seemed to shudder. The energy from the crystal surged through her fingers, and the entire ship seemed to react. "What the hell?" Carter muttered, backing away. "What did you just do?" The alien general's face appeared again on the screen, his expression twisted in rage. "No, you cannot interfere with my ship's core. This is impossible." The room began to shake violently. The crystal Sarah had touched was now sending a surge of energy through the ship's core, overriding its systems. The countdown to the weapon's activation began to falter. The alien general's fury was palpable. "You think you've won," he hissed. "This is not over. You may have delayed the inevitable, but I will destroy you." Suddenly, the lights flickered, and the control room door opened with a mechanical screech, revealing a swarm of alien soldiers rushing toward them, weapons raised. "Not good," Sarah muttered, reaching for her gun. "We're surrounded." Cliffhanger ending. The alien soldiers poured into the room, their weapons aimed directly at Sarah and her team. The countdown for the dreadnought's weapon system was still running. They were trapped, with the weapons still primed to fire. The team fought fiercely, but it seemed like the odds were stacked against them. Time was running out. With alien soldiers closing in and the weapons still threatening the Stronghold, can Sarah and her team disable the dreadnought in time, or will this be the end of humanity's fight? Would you like to continue with Part 7? The control room had descended into chaos. Alien soldiers poured in from every corner, their weapons raised and their movements swift and deadly. Sarah and her team, outnumbered but not outmatched, immediately took defensive positions, weapons drawn. "Hold them off," Sarah shouted, her voice sharp with urgency. "We need time to finish disabling the weapons." Lieutenant Carter, his gun raised, fired first. The shot hit one of the alien soldiers square in the chest, but the soldier didn't even flinch. The impact sent the enemy sprawling back, but within seconds, another soldier took its place. The aliens were relentless. Sarah's mind raced. The countdown to the dreadnought's final weapon strike was ticking down rapidly. Each second brought them closer to disaster. The crystal, now glowing brighter than ever, had activated the ship's core, disrupting its systems. But the more energy it released, the more unstable the ship became. Every movement felt like it could bring the entire ship crashing down around them. "We need to disable the core," Sarah said, gritting her teeth. "It's the only way to stop this before it's too late." "How?" Carter asked, ducking behind a column as an alien soldier fired a blast in their direction. "We're fighting a losing battle here." "We don't have a choice," Sarah snapped. "That crystal is the key. If we can access the core before the aliens regain control, we can destroy their systems from the inside. But we have to buy ourselves more time." Outside the Stronghold, back at the human Stronghold, Commander Lucas Hayes watched the dreadnought's energy level spike on his screen. The massive ship was still powering up, its main cannon charging with devastating force. "How much longer until it fires?" Hayes asked, his voice tense. "We have 3 minutes," the officer beside him replied, watching the countdown on the monitor. "The weapon's almost ready." Hayes clenched his fists. He had sent his best team into the heart of the dreadnought, but there was no guarantee they would make it out in time. The countdown was closing in. They had no backup, no reinforcements. It was all or nothing. Inside the dreadnought, Sarah's team fought valiantly, trying to hold the alien soldiers off while Sarah focused on the console. She could feel the sweat beating on her forehead, the weight of the moment pressing down on her. There was no room for error. "Sarah, we can't keep holding them off," Lieutenant Carter yelled, firing another shot. "We need a plan." "Just a little longer," Sarah said, her fingers flying over the controls. The crystal's energy continued to surge, feeding power into the ship's systems and disrupting the countdown. But it was only a matter of time before the aliens reestablished control. "Got it," Sarah shouted, her eyes locking onto the console. She had accessed the core's power distribution systems, but it was still a complicated process to manually shut them down. The alien soldiers moved in, and another blast from their weapons narrowly missed Sarah. "Get to cover," she yelled to her team. They retreated to a nearby alcove, where they had a brief moment to regroup. The countdown was now at 1 minute, and the dreadnought's primary weapon was on the verge of firing. "Sarah, you need to hurry," Carter shouted. "The weapon's almost ready." Sarah didn't hesitate. She activated the final sequence, her hands moving faster than ever. The ship's core gave a loud, ominous hum, and the walls around them seemed to pulse with energy. "I'm in," she said, her voice strained. "Now I just need to." Suddenly, a high-pitched screech filled the room. The alien general's voice echoed through the chamber, distorted and filled with rage. "You think you've won," he hissed. "Your human desperation is laughable. The weapon cannot be stopped. You will all die for your arrogance." The control room shook as the dreadnought's core became unstable, its power systems overloaded. The ship was on the edge of implosion, and the alien general had no way of knowing that Sarah was already disabling the weapon systems from within. The energy levels on the console dropped drastically, but not enough to completely stop the impending blast. Sarah looked at her team, determination flashing in her eyes. "We got seconds. Get ready," she shouted. Outside the Stronghold, Commander Hayes was on edge as the dreadnought's cannon finally activated. The ship's main weapon began to charge, and a bright, blinding light surrounded it. "Get the shields ready." Hayes barked, his voice urgent. All units, prepare for impact. The countdown was down to 10 seconds. Inside the dreadnought, with only a few seconds left, Sarah's heart raced. She had almost completed the sequence. The countdown on the dreadnought's cannon was still ticking down, but she had a plan. The last thing she needed to do was reroute the core's energy flow into the cannon's chamber, shutting it down completely. Here goes nothing, Sarah muttered, her finger hovering over the final button. She slammed her hand onto the console. The room shook violently. The energy in the ship surged, and for a brief moment, everything went black. Cliffhanger ending. The next moment, everything stopped. The shaking ceased, and the lights flickered back on. "Did we do it?" Carter asked, his voice barely a whisper. Sarah didn't answer. She was staring at the console, her breath shallow. The dreadnought's cannon had powered down, but there was still one final blast. A warning signal blinked on the screen. "Too late," Sarah whispered. The cannon's final charge had already been released. Outside the Stronghold, the blinding light of the alien weapon shot toward the human base. The team had only moments to react. The battle isn't over yet. Will Sarah and her team survive the alien weapon's blast, or is this the end of humanity's last stronghold? Would you like to continue with Part 8?